Session, and delighted today to introduce you to our newest innovation team member, Delia McCarthy. Delia is joining us as service and interaction designer, and we've been able to bring Delia on board thanks to support of the HSE Spark Innovation Programme. So Delia is going to talk a little bit about service and interaction design and how it works in a healthcare setting, how it works generally, and how it works in a healthcare setting. So I'm going to hand over to Delia to share her slides. And if you wouldn't mind just muting yourself if you're not muted already, just because there's some sound coming through there. Okay.
Okay, well, I'm going to share my screen now. Can we see that?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so what can design do for you? I'm going to go through that. You might be wondering, how is this relevant? But first, I'll just talk a bit about myself. Hi, everyone. I'm Delia. I'm the new service and interaction designer at CHI. I did my undergrad in product design at NCAD. I then went on to do my master's in interaction design, also in NCAD. I then worked for Matter Transformation for a while, which is the innovation department of the Matter Hospital. And I designed them a app to go in their dermatology department, and that was all part of my master's thesis. I then took a little break from healthcare and worked in an AI tech startup for a while, which was really interesting. I did UX and UI design there. And now I'm here at CHI and I'm very excited to be here. But you might be wondering, what is a service and interaction designer? And if you are asking yourself that question, don't worry, most people have no idea. So it's a really common question. So as a service and interaction designer, I use the design process to focus on the experiences users have with products, services, and systems. And the aim of these interactions is to make them intuitive, efficient, and enjoyable. Sorry, someone saying something? No? Okay. Anyway, so I'm going to talk you through kind of the design process and kind of go tell you how it works, and then we'll go through how you could maybe use that in a healthcare setting. So number one is empathize. So we really want to know, who is the person using the service, who are the people providing the service, what are their wants, what are their needs, what are their feelings. So we really do a deep dive into that. Empathy is at the core of everything we do in design. So once we've done that, we go on to step two, which is define. So here we want to state the user's needs and problems. I usually start by giving myself a brief and make sure that I'm asking the right questions. So this usually involves a lot of post-it notes, kind of really making sure that you're asking the right questions and you've kind of looked at all the different kind of aspects of the problem. So from there we go into ideate. So this is when we create a diverse range of ideas based on research insights, and how can we kind of best tackle the problem. And for me, the ideation phase is a lot of sketching on my iPad, as you can see here. The point is not to make anything pretty, but to kind of just get all your ideas out there, which is really, it's a good tool to kind of help you work through things. So once you've kind of picked one of your concepts from that kind of big mess, we then start prototyping. So this is when we make a number of scaled down versions of the design, and they can be digital or they can be materials like paper and cardboard. So these two here are kind of paper and cardboard models, and these are used to kind of test with patients, which brings us on to the fifth step, which is testing. So we use our prototypes with our users and we learn from their feedback to create better versions of the design in future. So this can go on for a long time. You know, you can have a prototype, show it to users, they can find a flaw or give you feedback, and then you kind of start again. So the design process is not linear. Sometimes it really goes round and around and around until you find the right solution, but that's fine. It's all part of the process. So that's the design process basically in a nutshell. But what does this look like in a healthcare setting? How is it relevant to you as healthcare providers? So I'm going to go through a project I did during my master's. It was the redesign of the nursing assessment form for the Mater Hospital, and it was done during their design week. So I'm going to just briefly go through the brief we were given. So in 1 week, we had to redesign the nursing assessment form. And because, this is a 1 week project, it's kind of very sped up. A lot of projects you do in a healthcare setting could take, a year, 12 months, 6 months. So this is a very condensed version. But I'll go through the problem anyway. So the current form was, the current form is 19 pages long, which took roughly 45 minutes to fill out per patient, which meant obviously the nurses weren't filling everything out, and they were spending a large amount of their day on paperwork instead of with their patients, which is where they want to be. And this is kind of what the form looked like. So we immediately dove into our research activities. So what did we do? We did interviews with 4 nurses from different departments, and we did a card sorting exercise with 15 student nurses, and you can see those in photos here. We kind of printed out the different headings of the form, and we asked the students to kind of prioritize them and talk about, what each one means to them, and like rank it for importance, and that was really interesting. We did a ward observational visit, and we also did kind of form analysis with some nurses on the ward as well. So there was a lot of insights, but the main ones were that there was so much repetition of information all throughout the form. Like things were in there like 2 and 3 times, which is completely unnecessary. Only the first few pages were being filled in. And I think that was due to, the length and complexity of the form. A really interesting thing that the nurses said was that they want the form to tell the story of a patient, and the current one just wasn't doing that. Also, important information was just really hard to find. It was scattered throughout, and everything was the same color. You couldn't really find things easily. It wasn't intuitive to use at all. And then the last thing was there was no accountability for how the form was filled out. So you could have one nurse fill out one section and another nurse fill out another section, and you'd have no idea like what colleague to follow up with if you had questions or wanted to talk to them or anything like that. So then we started taking the form apart. So we took it apart, we put it up on the wall, we cut it up, we crossed things out, we looked at rewording, we physically cut out any of the repetitive information. We moved a lot of the kind of most important information to the front of everything, and then we put it all back together again. So this kind of led us into the prototyping phase. We called this the Franken document because it really it looked horrendous, but we stuck it all together again. And each kind of section we started thinking about, the interaction between the nurse and the patient. So if the nurse is reading the form out to you and, filling things out with you, how could we reword it so that it was more conversational and user friendly? So like, as you can see here, like, who are you? Who is there for you? So it was, the headings kind of took a more user-friendly approach. So after we stuck it all back together again, we digitized it and it looked much nicer, which then brought us into testing. So we brought that digitized version, printed it out, and we did a peer review with about 4 nurses. And we went through the whole form with a fine-tooth comb, and we were looking for feedback on usability, information accuracy. We just wanted to make sure that this form was as easy to understand for the user, for the nurses as possible, and just, find any kind of errors that we'd made. So after we had implemented all of those changes from their feedback, this is the final form. And I'll just go through some of its key kind of features. So the cover page looks very different now. When we spoke to the student nurses, they said that they only fill out the first page. So keeping that in mind, we moved all of the most important information to the front page, so that it was easy to access. And we also moved the discharge plan to the front page because a really interesting quote we got was that discharge starts from the day of admission. And it was something that the nurses were always like flipping around trying to find within the form. So we moved that to the front as well. Key features within the form. So the form itself went from 19 pages down to 3, which just goes to show how much information just didn't need to be in there. We also implemented high contrast color coding. This was to help nurses kind of navigate quickly. So after a while, you'd know that like maybe, you need to go to the orange section, you can flip to it really quickly. We also added primary and secondary surveys. So the primary survey up the top here was to be filled in within 24 hours of the patient arriving on the ward, and that's the most important information. And then the rest can kind of be filled in after that, but is, still vital. We added qualifying questions for each section. So here in the cardiovascular section, you can see, do you have any heart problems? Tick yes or tick no. And that is for, that interaction with the nurse and the patient when they're like reading it out and filling the form out together. So it's kind of layman's terms, nothing too scary. So we did that intentionally. And then at the bottom of each section, we added a space for initials and dates. So this is something that the nurse, as they're filling it in, could just put their initials in really quick. And so when you're looking back at a patient's form, oh, that colleague filled out this and that colleague filled out that, in case you needed to like follow up with anyone. So the impact of the form. So obviously it increased nurses' time to spend with their patients. It took way less time to fill out than the 45 minutes it was previously. The reduced length means it's more likely to be filled out. I mean, it's only 3 pages, and it's also a fold out kind of layout, so you can see the whole thing at once. It's also easier to manufacture and digitize in future. I know we're all kind of moving towards an electronic health record in the future, and so a shorter form means that is actually much easier to attain. And then less paper equals better for the environment. And we got a really great quote from Alan Sharp, who's the CEO of the Mater Hospital. He said it's about 375,000 pages that won't have to be filled in each year by the nursing community at the Mater, which actually does make such a big impact. You wouldn't really think it going in. After the project, so it won Mater Design Week in 2022. It was then taken over by Mater Transformation, and they began work to kind of implement it into the hospital. And moving on from our 1 week project, it actually has taken them over a year of like testing and redesigning to get it to be almost implemented into the hospital. So it just goes to show how long these things actually take. But then it was our form was also commended for an IDI grad award for medical device design, and it was also shortlisted for design research. And then it just recently won a HSE Bright Spark Award a couple of weeks ago, so that was really exciting. So now that you have seen kind of what design can do in a medical context, do you think you could use design in your work? If so, we would love for you to get in touch. If you think you could use design support on a project, let us know. You can email this email here below, and you can also scan this QR code if you wanted to sign up for the CHI mailing list. And yeah, I would love to see any ideas you guys have. I'm around. Thank you. Any questions?
Great. Thanks, Julia. Oh, I see a question straight off the bat. I was going to do a little filler question to let you all warm up. Go on, Vivian.
I'll give you a moment off, Anne. And that was perfect timing because I just finished swallowing my last bit of lunch. So first of all, congratulations, Julia. That was really interesting, and on all those awards. That's great. Welcome to CHI. That was the other thing I wanted to say. Third, I might go back to college and retrain as a service and interaction designer because it sounds so interesting. The bit I'm wondering about is, so you kind of answered one of my questions, which was the QR code, and that's how people reach you. Are we also encouraging families to link in that, or is it just for staff? Because I'm sure there's people coming through our system who think, why are they doing that? I saw it done a different way in another hospital and that would work much better. Is there a way to generate ideas from wider than just staff?
Yeah.
That would be one question.
I think, so at the moment, we're just thinking about how we can support staff-led innovation projects. That's really where we're starting, Vivian. And it's really a test because I think places like the Mater, they're probably 10 years down the road with their design piece. Like they did a big piece around as far as their lean transformation. So they're a lot further down the road than we are. And we're just trying to test it at the moment.
Yeah.
So I think definitely, but a huge part of our process is that any work that Delia would be doing supporting staff would have a huge element of involving families and hearing about families, because they're ultimately the end user, like, for any of these projects. So but in terms of them setting the priorities, that's something we're really interested in. So, like, that's something I think we'll be working towards. But yeah, we haven't figured that out yet. But I think it's definitely something we'll work towards. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it does. And then I suppose the other thing is just how to reach teams more. You're welcome to attend one of our managers meetings for HSCPs if that would be helpful, just to get the word out. But I don't know, are you doing roadshows or other lunch and learn type things? People are clearly busy, and also I think under a lot of pressure with change at the moment. But I also know that there's loads of ideas out there that we'd love to tap into. So
yeah, I think that'd be a brilliant idea. Yeah. So Delia is shared between CHI and HSC Spark, so she's doing some national work with them as well. But yeah, I think it would be brilliant to get her out into different forums to talk to people, because it's a bit where we're trying to see. Because I suppose what me and Barry have been doing for a couple of years now is thinking about design thinking and bringing those elements through, but we're not designers. So Delia has that design experience and that training. So we're really interested to see how that will all come together. So I think the more we can get her out there and people knowing what she's doing, it'll be really interesting to see how people start to think differently about problems that they have, if they think there's a design piece that could be done with it.
Yeah,
that's brilliant. We'll
really welcome.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Vivian. Any other questions?
Helena, not to put you on the spot, but it sounds, oh, well, there you go. You put your hand up at the same time.
Yeah,
I was just going to say, links very closely into your master's, isn't it?
Yes, no, I mean, we would have had some design thinking aspects of the digital health masters that I did last year. Seems like a long time ago now. And I know a lot of the psychology teams across the sites have engaged and gotten Spark funding and are very excited about projects. And I suppose I agree with Viv. I think it would be great even if Delia could come to some cross-site, large groups, because we know you've a limited time, but I suppose to spread the word, because it keeps people interested in their role. It sort of gives them energy for, having energy for projects. And I've heard about Anne Barry for so long. I didn't realize it was you. You were the ad of the Anne Barry, but people have been telling me about projects that they're doing. And, Viv, I think if say the different HSCP groups could have maybe a presentation, it'd be really lovely to see everyone engaging with it and seeing how useful it is to their day-to-day work. So just to echo that. But yeah, psychology are definitely on board and have been already and seem to really love it. And I've heard about saws and cutting timber and doing all sorts of very,
I take credit Claire Crow for that one now, that we can't take any credit for that, the fire school. But yeah, we've had amazing uptake from psychology. It really seems to have struck a chord, Helena, and and we just met with some of our we've a level 2 program that we're doing for design thinking. That's a team-based program, and there's I think 3 psychology teams coming through that, and they're doing fantastic work, and yeah. I'm sure I'm putting words in your mouth, Delia, but I'm sure you'd love to attend cross-sitting meetings and give a presentation. I think it would be great to get her out there for sure.
And then I suppose to have some presentation field for the projects that have, taken off with it, I suppose, spread the word and to showcase what they've done as well. Specifically, I think that would be
We have a plan. Watch this space. We have a plan for that, hopefully in October. And we'll be in touch with you, Helena, as well, because we want to bring in line managers and Vivian potentially. We'd love to have you as well. Or it'll be fairly open, but we want to showcase some of the work coming through, because there are some really fantastic projects. And we were speaking to them yesterday specifically about the design input. So as well as Delia coming on board, we're really excited to have her. We're also going to have access to a graphic designer for 2 days a week, shared with Matter. So that could be something that people are thinking if you're designing, say, leaflets or posters, or I'm probably limiting it now. Delia probably know more about it than me. But if you've anything from a graphic design point of view, that could be something to consider as well. So do get in touch with us. Like Delia's time will be limited, as will the other designers' time, but we we really are interested in supporting staff-led innovation projects, and we have a very broad, as many of you know, our definition for innovation is quite broad. We're really interested in just different approaches to user experience, delivery of care, just how thinking differently about how we deliver care to patients and how they experience that care. So it's quite broad. It's quite broad, our definition. Does anybody have any other questions? Suzanne?
Hi, I'll turn my camera. I've stopped eating. Sorry, I was eating.
Yeah, that's what it's for. What's in your sandwich?
Hi, Delia. Welcome. Can I just ask, does it always have to be a patient improvement or a benefit of patients? So, for example, I'm starting, we rely heavily on international nurses. We do a huge amount of international, about 200 a year. And we've just realized that the current orientation induction program, for example, that we have been running has been the same program for probably the last 10 to 15 years. And we need to think about it really radically differently. And I'm just thinking this could be a great, a great way of thinking about it differently. But it's obviously, yes, it's patients ultimately long term, because if we get the induction and the orientation right, that benefits patients, but it's not a patient facing project. Would that be okay, or would that?
Yeah, certainly we're not limiting to patient facing projects, because we would be very much of the view that anything benefits staff will benefit patients ultimately. And something like induction or training is very clear. It's a clear secondary gain for patients there. So we're not limiting it to staff-led in the same way as our seed funding projects. We support. We're saying staff-led projects, but it doesn't have to be direct impact for patients. It can be indirect.
Okay, thank you.
What did you think of the nursing forums, Dan?
Amazing. It's just, and yes, it's something, isn't it? On the surface, you think, God, how did nobody think about that before? And how many over the years, how many people have been working with that form saying it's not right? But it's often small little things that have a big impact. It's incredible, isn't it? But it's stepping away from it and looking at it differently, rather than being in the work doing it every day. You have to step out of it and look at it from a different lens, I think. So yeah, hopefully we'll be in nursing using you and working with you.
No hogging now, Suzanne.
Okay, I'm first in the queue there, Viv.
I think the interesting thing about the nursing assessment form is, obviously I'm a designer. I have no knowledge of anything medical. And so I really rely on you, the staff, and your expertise. And it's a lovely collaboration where I bring the design, but you're bringing so much knowledge, and then we work together, and I'm making something for you at the end of the day. So it's really nice.
Yeah.
Great. Barry, did you want to come in?
Yeah, I think that the way of looking at this is it's a problem solving. It's a way of solving problems and challenges that you might have. So it's using design to solve problems. And we've already instigated this, and it's so fantastic to have the likes of Delia here, who can really inject something or bring that to another level. So we really think this should be in your toolkit or your armory of what you do in your everyday. This is a way of solving problems. It brings people together to get all their input. And it gets you, it applies a method that maybe we wouldn't have applied before, or slightly different than we've applied before. And these are often problems and challenges we have to solve anyway. So why can't we come at them in a different way? And the really important thing is it can be very efficient. Like Delia mentioned that they did that within one design week. So, okay, maybe you'd have to break that up, and maybe you couldn't have one concentrated week, but you could, if you had a series of meetings over a number of months, you'd make up that time. But it's a very efficient way of solving problems. I think that's actually one of the most exciting things about this.
Okay, great. And I think the benefit of having, as Julie mentioned, just that outside view as well, like a different view, I think it's really exciting as well, because I think sometimes, we get in the mode of doing things, and I've been in healthcare all my life. Barry most of his life, Maura most of her life. So it'd be interesting just to have a different view in the team as well. Okay, great. Okay, just conscious of everybody's time, and we're nearly at the half an hour now. So I just time for one more question if anybody wants to. Any burning questions? No? Okay, in that case, just to say thanks very much for joining us, and do get in touch with us. chi.innovation@nchg.ie is our email, or if you haven't, myself and Barry or Maura's email, you can contact us that way. and we are looking forward to seeing all your great design projects. Thank you.